Ancient Roman stories tell of heroes, demigods, ancestral fathers, and sometimes, some stories have got a little of all. In this video, we will be telling the story of Aeneas, a great hero who was a defender of Troy, a city destroyed in the Trojan War by the Greeks. This hero would go on to lead the surviving Trojans to the land now called Italy. He and his comrades founded Rome, became Rome's first great hero and legendary father. As is a common theme for all legendary heroes' stories, Aeneas was a nobleman as well as a demigod. He was the son of Anchises, who was of the royal family of Troy, and his mother was Venus, the goddess of love. Anchises, his father, was a strong, handsome young man whose appearance particularly attracted the goddess. She seduced him and bore him a son, Aeneas. When Venus revealed her identity as a goddess to Anchises, he was frightened. Still, she told him no harm would come his way if he kept their relationship a secret. Young Aeneas was raised by mountain nymphs until he was 5 years old, before being sent to live with his father. Anchises forgot his promise to the goddess never to reveal the nature of Aeneas' birth to anyone. He was struck by lightning after divulging that Venus was the mother of his son. The lightning made Anchises blind and lame. Meanwhile, Aeneas grew to be an upright and moral man called the Pious because of the respect and obedience he had for the gods. In return, the gods, Poseidon, Apollo, and his mother gave him protection. Aeneas was a great and mighty warrior who became the lieutenant of Hector, the greatest warrior in Troy. At the time the Greeks invaded Troy, it was said that Aeneas didn't join the war immediately. This wasn't because he was afraid of war, but partly because he had a prickly relationship with King Priam, the king of Troy at that time. Also, it was believed that Aeneas also resented that Hector, Priam's son, was the supreme commander of the Trojan forces. The king wasn't too fond of Aeneas, as Poseidon had predicted that the descendants of Aeneas, and not his son, would rule Trojans in the future. Regardless of their underlying hatred for each other, and the situation at hand with the war, Aeneas married one of Priam's daughters, Creusa, who bore him a son called Iülus. The war was a fierce one that claimed the lives of several great warriors of Troy, and this included Hector. Aeneas fought bravely in the war, but when the ghost of Hector appeared to him to warn him of the impending fall of Troy, he fled the city, along with his father and son, with the help of his mother. He and a group of Trojan warriors together built ships, with which they sailed to Thrace, where they had hoped to set up a new colony. But as Aeneas slept at night, a ghost of a Trojan warrior murdered by the Thracians appeared to him to tell him to leave the land at once. They left for Delos, where an oracle of Apollo told the Trojans to return to their ancestral land. Assuming the oracle meant Crete, they made for this island, which was uninhabited and plagued. Aeneas constantly had dreams that revealed that his future home lay far to the west in Italy, where Trojan Dardanus had come long before. So Aeneas now knew where his destiny laid. So they left Crete, but were caught in a storm that drove them up the western coast of Greece. On getting to Greece, they were driven by harpies, bird-like creatures, to Epirus, where they found Prince Helenus of Troy, who had married Hector's wife, Andromache. At the time Troy fell, Andromache was taken captive by Achilles' son, Pyrrhus. And when he too died, Andromache married Helenus. Aeneas told Helenus of his quest, for which Helenus warned of how perilous the journey would be, especially through the Strait of Menissa, where Scylla and Charybdis awaited. He also advised Aeneas to consult the Sibyl, who was an oracle that lived in 𝐦𝐤. After departing Epirus, they briefly stopped on the western coast of Italy to worship in their homeland. But the place was inhabited by Greeks, and this spelled trouble for them. Sailing south, they appeared at Scylla, where they encountered their first challenge in the form of a whirlpool of Charybdis. They eventually made it to Sicily, near Mount Etna, to find a wretched-looking sailor left by Ulysses, the king of Ithaca. The sailor told them of nearby Cyclopses, and as soon as they returned to the sea, Polyphemus, the one-eyed son of Poseidon, charged into the water after them. They were able to make it to Drepanum on the west coast of Sicily, where they were well received by King Acestes, a man who also shared a common origin. And this was unfortunately where Aeneas' father Anchises died. Juno, a goddess, regarded as the queen of the gods, hated all Trojans and hated Aeneas even more because of Paris, son of Priam, brother of Hector, knowing that in the not-so-distant future their descendants would destroy her beloved city of Carthage, which was being built. Juno wasn't going to fold her arms and let that happen, so she bribed Aeolus to unleash a dangerous storm on Aeneas and his ship. The typhoon led to the wreckage of one of Aeneas' ships. When Neptune would finally calm the storm, only 7 of Aeneas' ships made it to shore on the African coast. Meanwhile, Venus went to Jupiter to complain about her son's misfortunes. However, Jupiter assured her that her son would found a great nation regardless of the many trials he may face. She said this was his destiny, and this was something even Juno would come to terms with. On arriving in the new land, Aeneas and Anchises, one of his comrades, set out to scout the place. Then they came across Venus disguised as a huntress, and she told them that the land they were was Libya near Carthage. Carthage was a land ruled by the beautiful Queen Dido. The Queen Dido had fled Tyre with some of her loyal followers to Libya, where they were building a new city called Carthage. Venus left the men but concealed them in a mist so they could enter the city unnoticed. Both men entered the city and found a temple of Juno, which was adorned with the murals of the Trojan War. They found Dido in the temple performing her queenly duties. They also found some of their companions who had been lost in the sea, seeking the queen's permission to stay and repair their battered ships. The queen granted their request and further added that they were welcome to stay in Carthage. Afterwards, Aeneas stepped forward, greeting his comrades, and requested the queen's help and hospitality. Dido felt pity for Aeneas as she was moved by his plight. Also, she had great admiration for the handsome commander, an admiration that was turned into love by Cupid, acting on the order of Venus. From that moment, the queen could only think of Aeneas. The love-struck queen married Aeneas with the blessings of Juno and Venus. On one of their many hunts, Aeneas and Dido came upon a storm, and they sought shelter in a cave where they made love. The news of their affair spread across the land, reaching Labus, one of Dido's former suitors, who also happened to be the king of Libya. Labus didn't take the news very lightly. Just as he was getting used to life in Carthage, Aeneas was reminded by Mercury of his promised homeland in Italy. This broke his heart, but he wasn't willing to give up on his destiny and secretly made plans to leave. Dido got wind of his plans and was heartbroken too. She begged him to stay, but all her pleas fell on deaf ears. Aeneas eventually left Carthage with a heavy heart. Heartbroken and abandoned, Dido threw herself onto a funeral pyre after sending her people to avenge Aeneas' treachery. As they journeyed, he made a stop in Sicily, where some of his followers waited behind to found a colony, but Aeneas continued to Italy. When he got there, he went to seek the advice of Cybele, a powerful oracle. Cybele took Aeneas to the underworld, and he saw the ghost of Dido, but she didn't turn to talk to him. Then he saw the ghost of his father, who told him he would found the world's greatest kingdom. Strengthened by what he had heard from his father, Aeneas went to Latium in central Italy, where he married Lavinia, the daughter of the Latin king. Turnus wasn't happy that the woman he had hoped to marry got married to a foreigner. But Latinus, Lavinia's father, only agreed to give her daughter to Aeneas because it was foretold that his daughter would marry a foreigner. Turnus was the leader of a tribe called the Rutuli, and they launched a war against the Aeneas and his men. But as this was the city he was destined to found, he could not be defeated. He killed the mighty Turnus and married Lavinia. Then he founded the city, which he called Lavinium, where Latins and Trojans were united. Aeneas lived a great and fulfilled life, and upon his death, Iulus ruled over Lavinium and founded his own city called Alba Longa, which became the capital of the Trojan Latin people. There you have it, guys, the story of Aeneas. If you enjoyed the video, kindly smash that like button. For more ancient, interesting mythologies, do subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification icon. Until next time, thanks for watching.